In a small corner of a bustling city, there was a little café called the Daily Grind. It was the kind of place where steam from the espresso machine painted the air with the scent of roasted beans, where the clatter of cups was a familiar music, and where people moved through their days in a comfortable, predictable rhythm. Behind a counter was Maya, a young woman with a warm smile whose job was to serve coffee, but whose nature was to see people. Every single day, at precisely 3 in the afternoon, the bell above the cafe door would give a soft chime, and an elderly woman would enter. Her name was Eleanor. She was grace in motion, her silver hair always neatly combed, wearing a simple, well-kept coat regardless of the season. She would take the same table by the large front window, the one that looked out onto the busy intersection. She never ordered much, sometimes a cup of soup, sometimes just a glass of water. She would sit for exactly 1 hour, her eyes rarely leaving the window, watching the world go by with a quiet, patient intensity. Maya noticed her, of course. In a job like hers, you notice the regulars, the hurried businessmen, the chattering students, the tired parents. But Eleanor was different. There was a stillness about her, a depth in her gaze that suggested she was looking for something far beyond the passing cars and pedestrians. One slow Tuesday, as Maya cleared the table next to hers, she finally gathered the courage to speak. "It's a good spot for people watching," Maya said kindly, refilling Eleanor's glass of water without being asked. Eleanor turned from the window, her eyes crinkling into a gentle smile. "It is. Thank you, dear." "You seem to be waiting for someone," Maya ventured softly, not wanting to pry, but unable to quell her curiosity. Eleanor's smile remained, but a veil of something fragile, a mix of sorrow and unshakable hope passed over her features. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she took a small, careful sip of water. This was their routine, a little kindness, a little silence. The conflict wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet, persistent hum of worry that began to grow in Maya's heart. She saw how Eleanor's hands, though steady, were growing thinner. She noticed the single carefully folded newspaper she would read, then refold, as if to save it. One rainy afternoon, when the cafe was empty and the world outside was a blur of gray, Maya brought over a bowl of tomato soup, fresh from the kitchen, with a side of bread. "On the house," she said brightly. "It's a day for something warm." Eleanor looked at the steam rising from the bowl, then up at Maya. Her eyes shimmered. "You are too kind to an old woman." "It's no trouble at all," Maya said, sitting in the opposite chair for a moment. "Really." There was a long silence, filled only with the patter of rain against the glass. Eleanor's gaze drifted back to the window, to the misty, distorted shapes of people rushing by under umbrellas. She seemed to be wrestling with something, a story held tightly within for so long it had become part of her breath. Maya was about to get up and give her privacy when Eleanor spoke, her voice so low it was almost lost in the rain's rhythm. "I come here," Eleanor whispered, her fingers tracing the rim of her water glass, "because this is where I last saw him." Maya stilled, listening. 42 years ago, my son, Michael, he was just 18. We had a disagreement, a foolish, heated argument over something I can't even remember now. He stormed out. I was angry too, and The twist was not a sudden arrival, nor a miraculous appearance. It was a profound realization that washed over Maya, a realization of the monumental strength housed in fragile bones, of a love so steadfast it built its chair at a cafe window every day for 42 years. The vigil wasn't one of delusion, but of devotion. Eleanor was not waiting for a ghost. She was keeping a space in the present for a love that had never left her. Maya reached out and covered Eleanor's hand with her own. No words were adequate. They simply sat, hands clasped, as the rain painted the world outside. From that day, everything changed, and yet nothing did. Eleanor still came at 3, but now Maya always had a cup of hot chocolate,
not coffee, not tea, waiting at her table, steam curling up to meet her. She never charged her for it. Other regulars began to notice the gentle ritual. A burly construction worker started nodding respectfully to Eleanor when he came in. A group of college students once quietly bought her a slice of cake, leaving it at her table with a shy note that read, "From all of us who still call our moms." The café, once just a backdrop for Eleanor's vigil, became a community that silently acknowledged it. They were bearing witness. They were honoring a love story written in daily acts of remembrance. One sunny spring afternoon, a year later, Eleanor arrived looking especially frail but radiant. She had a small wrapped package. She handed it to Maya. "For your kindness," she said simply. Inside was a beautiful old leather-bound journal. On the first page, in elegant script, it read, "For the one who saw a person, not just a patron. Thank you for keeping the seat warm. Love, Eleanor." Eleanor passed peacefully in her sleep a week later. The following Thursday at 3 o'clock, the bell didn't chime for her. The window seat was empty. Maya felt a deep, aching absence. She prepared a cup of hot chocolate anyway and placed it on the table by the window. And then she saw it. Taped to the window, on the outside, was a single sheet of paper. A young man, perhaps in his 20s, was carefully attaching it. He came inside, his eyes scanning the café before landing on Maya. He approached, his expression soft and a little nervous. "Excuse me," he said. "I'm looking for a woman named Maya." "I'm Maya," she replied, her heart pounding. He smiled, a kind, gentle smile. "My name is David. I was Eleanor's neighbor. I checked in on her. She told me all about you, about this place." He gestured to the window seat. "She asked me, as a last favor, to come here today at 3, to give you this." He handed her a sealed envelope. With trembling hands, Maya opened it. It was a letter. "My dear Maya, if you are reading this, my long wait is finally over. I have gone home to my Michael. But please do not be sad. My time at the window was not wasted. You gave my waiting meaning. You turned my solitary vigil into a shared moment of kindness every day. You made the waiting peaceful. The café is no longer just the place I last imagined my son. It is now the place where I found a new light in a kind young woman's eyes. Keep the seat by the window open for others who might be waiting, in their own way. With all my gratitude, Eleanor." David spoke softly. She also asked me to tape that poem to the window. It was her son Michael's favorite. She said it was for everyone walking by. Maya looked at the paper now taped to the glass, visible from inside and out. It was a verse from a poem written in Eleanor's beautiful handwriting. "Kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see." Mark Twain. The resolution was not an ending, but a quiet beginning. The window seat was never reserved with a sign, but the regulars understood. It became the kindness seat. Sometimes a lonely person would sit there. Sometimes someone would leave an encouraging note for the next occupant. Maya always made sure a fresh glass of water or a cup of hot chocolate was close at hand. Eleanor's lifelong wait had transformed through the simplest acts of human connection into a lasting legacy of quiet compassion. She had taught them all that some loves never fade, and that the greatest kindness is sometimes just sitting with someone, sharing the weight of their silence, and honoring the story they carry. Narrator's voice, gentle and closing. Sometimes the greatest acts of courage are not found in grand gestures, but in the quiet daily decision to keep loving, to keep hoping, and to keep a seat at the table for someone's memory. And sometimes the simplest offering, like a glass of water, can be the doorway to a story that forever changes how we see the world.